think it's running good. So if you were able to go through the material that they had sent earlier, that is W3 schools. So I'll just like to go through it before we go to the thing that we were to do today. That is building a portfolio. Today we are just going to write HTML. Then tomorrow we are going to style it. A day after that will be Monday. On Monday, I'll give you an allowance to now code on yourself while I help you tweak things here and there. That way it will be easier to learn than us learning through notes like we are in class. So to avoid the class hizo nini zote za class, we are going to just go through, do something and start practical work. Yeah. Okay. So I believe you were able to go through this. And what I'd like to go is just to go to HTML tags. Let me see where they are. Yeah, HTML tag list. So if you went through this, you were able to learn about a few things that are being used, and you could relate to where they are being used on a given website. So starting with them, one of the crucial things when writing HTML is the doc type. You need to specify the kind of doc you are writing. For example, Word document also starts with a doc type, except you don't see that. Let me see the types of doc types that are available. Yeah, actually there are very many types, so I can't really be able to go through that. But to give an example on doc types, we have the doc types for Excel, Word, um, PDFs, I think. Yeah. So they are kind of different depending on what you want to write. But usually this kind si rahisi ukutane nayo ukiandika. Yeah. I'll just go back and peruse through. So if you went through, we have the address. Here define the address information of a location or of a person or of something, like just the address information. Going down, I'll just go to the article. Article hii ni ya when you are defining, for example, blog posts, you want to something like Google to automatically crawl and say this is a blog post, this is some information from yeah, we have blog post information from a post, for example, a reply to a blog post. Yeah, they're always written in articles. Then we have a side, for example, like this sidebar, just the side. So you have to style your aside to make it to appear on the left side or on the right side here where this banner is. Uh, we have audio to embed sound, and that's MP3s into web page. We have the B tag just for bold. For example, if you want to change the text font weight to bold, you use B tag. Base, this specifies the base URL of your document. I'll just illustrate where it's used and the use cases where you might use it. Usually also you don't use this tag base because somehow you use relative URLs in your web pages. I'll just skip those, go to block quotes just to write a quote in your HTML. The body, this wraps everything, like it wraps all your content, your HTML content. So there are very many. I believe if you had time and went through this, you were able to come across a few of these tags that are being used. So I'll just go back to the code here. We start from the top. So I'm just going to start by writing HTML. So if you with the Sublime text, you are going to get this if you start typing by HT. So you have HTML, then hit enter. It will create you the boilerplate of writing your HTML code. So, so this is the doc type. Usually it's on the top of the page. It has to appear here. Next, we have HTML, which wraps the entire web page. Then we have the head. So the head holds information about this specific web page you are building, some links to styles, some links to JavaScript, information yenye itaonekana Facebook wakati mtu anapost link, ama Twitter ama LinkedIn. So to illustrate, for example, about these meta tags or whatever is held in the head, this is for SEO and it's critical that you have them. So for example, hii information tunaekanga hapa, for example, the title will say that's the title of this page. This title appears on top of the page huko juu kwa Chrome here. For example, hii HTML reference, that's the title. So you have to add it in order for it to appear. Otherwise, what yenye ita appear hapo ni kitu different. So I'll just load this file in the browser. We see it as we go down through. Yeah, so hapa juu imeleta LSD Mentor. It's because you have specified that title. So when you do your pages, remember to have your title. Then if the title is not present, you see it just writes the file name or usually the URL of that page. If it's lsdmentor.com, that's what it's going to write here. But because we are serving from the local file directory, inaleta hapa index.html. So remember to have your title. Otherwise, your pages might not be good with Google. Wakati Google is crawling your pages to have it SEO ready, that is search engine optimization, titles also play a role. After the head, we have the body. So the body wraps your HTML content. For example, I can say here, I can say my HTML goes here. Yeah. So that's what the HTML you write. For example, the HTML we were writing the other day should go in the body tag. So I like to recap a few of the tags that are being used, or the HTML tags that are being used, so that we can be able to see how they appear in our site. So I'll just go through the headings. Yes, somebody has a question here. Yes, Jeremiah. Oh, it's writing like normal text. Can you be able to present your screen kindly? Okay. Another question as we wait for him to present his screen. Okay, let's see what's happening. So, okay, yeah. So let's solve this. Let's go to your code, Jeremy. Okay, yeah. So you need to save your file as a .html file. There's that folder I told you to create when we are starting. Yeah, there's that folder we said create that folder for our project. Go into that folder. Yeah, and save your file as index.html. Index.html. Save. Yeah. So okay, you could delete that HTML and restart. Just Like, yeah, not delete the file, just highlight everything. Okay, good. John, can you kindly present your screen too? So while John is presenting, Cosmos is Jeremy, you can mute a bit. Yes. So so Cosmos is suggesting something here. Cosmos is saying that we install live server extension ndio isikusumbue. Yeah, so live server, what live server does, badala ya wewe kusave na kwenda kureload page, it gives you that the moment you save it helps you reload the page. Cosmos, that's good, but no. Okay, we are not going to use it for this particular period of time. Reason being, I just want us to get used to saving and reloading the page. Tuzoea kuandika tu code like manually. Live server will eliminate that effect na mtu hatajua what happens. John, John, you could present your screen. Okay, I think your network might be problematic. So what I'll do, let me just explain what happens here. Oh, okay. So your file has not been saved, and okay, the first thing we could like to do here is create a different folder, because you have created a folder called index.html. Just create a folder like create a new folder. click Click on the your file name hapo juu on the top right, and click create new folder. John, are you able to get me? Yeah, yeah, create a new folder and save it as maybe classes. Save Create a new folder, and in the folder create a file called index.html. Yeah, I don't know, my screen is not updating on my side, so I hope you are faring well there. You have only presented index.html, yani the Sublime Text window only. Oh, okay, there's no problem. Have you been able to create? No, you could just exit without saving it. Okay, kindly present your screen, just like maybe the full screen. It could be easier that way. John, unanisikia? Umeweza kufungua hiyo folder? Have you been able to open the folder in the plain text? Let me look at my screen. Look at my screen. I will guide you through. Yeah. Okay. I'm presenting. So let's say you don't have your Sublime Text open at this particular moment. Just close it. Let's say like yours, it's totally closed. Go to where you want to create your projects. So for my case, I want to create my project under this folder called LSD Mentor. I'll right click here, create a new folder and say classes. Just go whenever you want to create your folder. After you have created your folder there, open Sublime Text, click file here and open folder. Then it will allow you to go to the file explorer and select the folder you want to open. Open that folder. Once the folder is open in Sublime Text, it will just be a blank, like a totally blank folder. On the folder, right click and click on new file. Then it will create a new file. Before you start coding, just hit Control S and save, say index.html. That's where you save it. It will be saved under the folder called classes. So this should be how your files look like under your new folder, classes index.html. Once you have done, just hit the right angle, start typing HTML. Then it will bring you the autocomplete snippet, which is kind of the boilerplate of writing HTML file. Is that one good with you? Okay. Shift and hiyo ako kaango kakufunguliwa, sijui venye kako besides M, so that's okay. Maybe there are many options ama eh, lakini naleta vitu zingine. Oh, help. Yeah, anybody from the class who could help him. Yes. Yeah, so the mm, keyboard inaweza kuwa different. Mwenye anatumia similar keyboard amwambie hiyo right angle iko wapi. Ime ime imepick. Yeah, you have to in that file umesave your file as index.html. Ni mtu amebeba mkono juu ama I don't know. Imeweza kukuonyesha vile unaandika? Nataka upresent screen yako yote, usipresent Sublime Text peke yake, sawa? Yeah, just present your entire screen. That way itakuwa easier sisi kukuonyesha where to go to. Uja present screen ama ni kwangu ijafika? Okay. Imekata? Ah, imefika. Sawa. Iko. Mm. Ebu fungua Sublime Text. Yeah. So you didn't create a file, you created a folder. Hiyo index.html hiyo ni folder. Na de click on LSD, right click on LSD and click and say and click on a new file. Yes. Okay. Sikupati, naona unaongea lakini okay. Let me just send you the procedure here. Hello guys. Uh, network yake iko chini na ame left, so sijui tu amekuja. Okay. Oh. So nadai uangalie hapa vile nafanya, then you do the same. I'll just create the similar folder yenye uko nayo, then nikuonyeshe vile unafanya. Yeah, I think imefika. So kitu nitafanya, nitahit hapa kwa file hapa juu niseme okay, let me do this. I'll just quit, go back here. I'll create a new folder called LSD. So kitu nitafanya, nafaa nifungue hii LSD. Ah, okay, hizi vitu hazifungui. I'll just come here and open the folder na Sublime Text. Hiyo folder ni LSD. So I have the similar setup that you have. Then right click on LSD and click on new file. Once you have created a new file, italeta hapa juu untitled. Just kuja hapa juu kwa file, tena sema save. Ikikuletea hiyo pop-up ya kusave ya Windows itakuwa different, itakuwa huko chini. Just write index.html. Then hit save. Italeta, unaona venye file inaonekana, inaleta hiyo ni kama opening and closing angle bracket. That's a file. Folder inakaa hivyo. For the file is opening and closing. Just right click, new file. Maybe you want to create the second file, Control S, Control plus S, and call it page.html. Save. So I have two files here. Umeona vile zinaenda? Okay. kindly do so since hatuta kuacha nyuma. Hebu present screen yako, usijali, ukianzia hapa at least then kesho itakuwa easier. Okay, hata hapo mahali uko right click. Oh, naona umecreate two files. Sawa, control S iko tu sawa. Hit control S. Usi right click hapo. Control plus S. Yes. Hiyo ni save. Normal saving ya ungefanya kwa document ya Word. Ah, nataka usave. Control S. Control plus S. Yeah, good. Sasa iandike index.html. Hapo kwa file name hiyo input box iko hapo chini. .ht .html. Andika tu full. Sawa, save. Good. Si umeona sasa hii imekuja kama file? Yeah, ni hivyo. Sasa open an angle bracket. Sasa hiyo opening angle bracket, hiyo ni closing, so that's a closing. We start with the opening, then we use closing at the end. Opening, right. Andika HTML. Hit enter. Sawa, hapo ndani ya title andika something like my first web page. My first web page. Unaona hapo ndani katikati ya title? Just mahali hiyo title ya kwanza imefungia, yeah, hapo katikati andika my first web page ama my first website. Yeah, good. Control S to save the normal saving ya Windows ya Word. Control plus S. Good. Right click on that file and open in a browser. Uh, kidogo tu nataka kuona imefungua wapi kwako. Right click and open in browser. Enda tu kwa hiyo one of your browsers and check it there. Either hapo haiko. Yeah, unaweza check hapo kwa Edge. Fungua hapo kwa hiyo meeting yetu. Fungua kwa meeting. Hapo sioni though. So fungua Chrome. Fungua Chrome. Yeah, sawa. Ujaset ikwe default though. Sawa. Enda, yeah, right. Okay. Right click then open in browser. Hiyo file yako. Ikikata we go to the next option. Hapo sidhani kama imefungua hapo. Let's go to your file explorer. Mahali hiyo file yako iko. Aya, hatutafika huko. It's very far. Okay. Okay, let unajua kwa file explorer mahali hiyo folder yako iko? Oh, no, fanyaje? Nimeona kitu fulani hapo. Let's go to your no 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 no. Right click. Kuna hiyo option wanakupea ya copy file path. Copy file path. Copy. Tuende kwa browser. Yeah, paste hapo juu. Hit enter. Now that's your first web page. Umeona huko juu title imekuja. Let's go. Tuende uedit hiyo file uone. Edit hapo katikati ya body. Ndio hiyo nataka nikuonyeshe mahali unafaa uandike. Hiyo ni title uliandika. Title ndio ile huko juu. Iko huko juu, my first web page. That's the title. Now, yeah, now your file is loading good. Tuende kwa Sublime Text uedit kitu huko. Turudi tu kwa Sublime Text. Unaona hapo, ingia katikati ya body. So when I say katikati, just go between the body tag. The opening body tag and the closing body tag. Line 9 to be specific. Yeah. Yeah, that's now the center. Like nikisema katikati, that's it. This. I prefer to go with that. Write something there. Andika tu my website hapo. Save your file. Control S. Control S. No, usiifungue na browser. Nitakwambia vile utafanya. Just Control S. Go to the browser. Tuende kwa browser. Reload hiyo page umefungua ya browser. Reload hiyo page. Just a single one. Usifungue mingi. Hiyo moja pekee. Good. Yeah. So that's the starting point. Hiyo ndo boilerplate. Ni rahisi ama ni ngumu? Okay, let's continue. So leo sitaenda mahali tulikuwa tufike though, so we shall just cover the tags. Kesho ndo tutaingia hiyo part ingine, and I don't know if we will be able to do so. So John, acha ni present screen. Yeah, good. Sawa. So yeah, so this is the center of the body tag, that's between. So if I said between the tags, just make sure if we go into a p tag, always katikati ya p tag ni hapa, there, hapo. That's where we write our content. All content go through this opening, closing, then the content. Down here, if we open another tag, let's say a div tag, we need to say our content hapa katikati. Otherwise, misplaced items like these ones zinaweza fanywa uendelee kudebug code yako na usione mali ziko. So always delete the misplaced elements ama elements zenye ziko mahali utaki zikae. So saying that, I like to go through the headings. So we shall start from heading 1 to heading 6. Tuone venye zinaonekana. We go to lists. After looking at lists, this is what we are going to go through. We are going through the headings, lists. So kwa list kuna ordered lists na unordered. The good thing, it's the normal flow for writing a Word document. After list, we are going to look at the forms. And after forms, we are going to look at the form and we are going to learn more about the inputs at this particular point. After the form and the inputs, we are going to look at the common tags. The reason as to why common tags is the last one is because somehow after tumetoka kutoka juu utaelewa hizi za kwenda chini zinafanya nini. So this shall be our small list that we're going to use. So for the headings and hii information yote, so kitu nitafanya to comment out, just select the text you want to comment and hold Control/. So I'll just write that comment here. To comment, use Control plus a slash. So hii ita comment code yako. What's commenting? Hii yote yenye nimeandika itaonekana kwa browser. If I go here to my browser, I reload here, hakuna kitu inaonekana hapa. It's like that is not visible to the browser. If I uncomment it and go to the browser, reload, it will be visible. So let's go through the headings. So we have heading 1 to heading 6. So we have H1 to H6. So to go through, the first one is heading 1. The next one is H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. So those are the headings that we have, just kutoka number 1 to number 6, from the largest to the smallest. Unaweza ona tu mahali unatumia heading 1. So usually always have a single heading 1 and the rest can be several in a page. But heading 1 inafaa kuwa moja pekee kwa website. Otherwise don't have very many heading 1s. Zitasumbua SEO. The next I said we are going to look is at the lists, both the ordered lists and unordered lists. Ni hivyo tu ziko, like as the term goes. If you want to create a numbered list, for example number 1 to number something, you create a list OL, ordered list. In a list, each list always has list items. So each list item goes as LI. That's a list item. So you can say 1 here, let's say 1. Okay, let's use even the main hiyo text tumekuwa tukitumia. So that's a list item number 1. So you can have as many list items as you want, like these ones, LI down. Those are ordered lists. How they look like on the browser, this is how they look like. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. That's ordered list. Then after the ordered list, we have the unordered list, UL, unordered list. Then in this also you need to have the list items. So just copy the list items from here, have them here. So unordered list italeta 2 points. So later on we shall learn how to do like change the numbering, isitumie number 1 to number 7, itumie Romans ama itumie ABC ama itumie capital Romans. Yeah, hizo zote we shall learn how to do that later on, but now we are just learning the common tags down through. After the list, ordered list and the unordered list, we shall look onto the forms. So how to create forms. So I just say here form. So in a form, let's say this is our form. That's how you create a form. But what goes in here? So let me just open an illustration website. I don't know. Go with that one. So I'm just illustrating how the form looks like, then I'll explain what goes in. So I'll go to sign up. So you see this is a form that contains inputs. So hii yenye mtu anaenta hapa first name, last name, email, username, phone, profile photo, those are all inputs. So we are going to look at these input types so that you can be able to pick which input type you are going to use for your form, which input types you are going to use for your form. So I'll start with the simple input type. So let's say input. The type here, I will go with the text. I'll just delete this other thing here. So not all tags are always closed. For example, this input tag, you can close it by just doing that. This is a simple way of closing an element. If you don't want it to have both opening and closing, so this you are closing. So for inputs, you could do a closing like this, or you can just do it without closing it. So this makes an input. So I'll just delete this one and to back you. So that's how you do your inputs. But usually ukianza kucode na other text editors, they will ask you to close it. So better off closing it starting from the start. That's how you close your input. Hii si lazima uandike input then you do the closing hapa mbele. Nope. Actually hata inaruka inakataa. Si lazima ufanye hivyo. It's not a must because hakuna kitu naandika hapa katikati. So you can close it that way hapo. That's for the input type text. So let's see how the input looks like. Here I reload the form, it looks like that. So I can be able to enter that text. The next input I like us to go. Okay, before we go to the next input type, let's look at how to make this input have a text of its own. So if you come here, this input has this like a label thing on top of it. This label, this is called a label, as I have mentioned. So a label, then the input itself. So let's do that one too. So let's say the label here is, I'll just recreate the same form. That's the label first name. Yeah, this will be the label of this input. So let me do a reload here. So it has added something from the back side of this input. Here imeweka first name, then the input itself. So that's for the label and the input. So I'll just delete this back, just the name. The next one I'm going to do is an email. So label, I'll do here email. So that kind of input that is used to take in emails is called the email input type. Yeah, so hii ukijaza bila kuandika a correct email itakataa. So let me add another thing down here called a button. So this is another element. So I'll say submit. So all forms can be submitted by buttons or another input. Nitafika kwa hiyo input yenye inaweza submit. I'm just going to illustrate the usage of input type email. So if I save that and I go to my form, refresh the page, fill in the first name or the name, fill in the email and submit, itaniambia please include an @ in the email address. So that's the good thing about an email input type. Email input type, first itakusaidia hiyo verification mtu enter the right email ama an email that is in the right format. It has to have an @ otherwise without that it's a fail. So I'll just do that.com. Then after that, if I submit the form, it I submit to. But without that @ it won't submit. The next input type we want to look into is called input type number. So let's say a label. So this is the label for that input. I say here phone number. Yeah, phone number here. So this one is to help you check in only numbers. So input, I say the type is number. I'll talk about the name attribute later. These are called attributes. For example, type is an attribute, name is an attribute. We have many other attributes that I can't be able to talk about right now. There are very many. So I'm only talking about a single attribute here, that is input type. That's the type attribute. So let's see how the number looks like. If I refresh the page, if you hover here, you see that it has this like up and down arrows za kusubtract na kuongeza. Otherwise you can't enter any other text yenye si numbers. It only has to be numbers. The next input type I'd like to talk about is the telephone. Okay, tel yam. Okay, no, let me just avoid the tel and that one. I'm going to talk about the input type radio checkbox. Let's say agree to terms. So this input type ni ile yenye inatumikanga kwa agree to terms and conditions. So I say input. I need to call this one. It's an input type checkbox. So going to the browser and refreshing it, inaniletea hii input aka ka checkbox kakuku mbele. The next input I like to talk about is ile yenye inakuambia select gender. So label and I say gender. So hii input I'll do input type radio. Hii ni ile inakuambia select the gender that you want. So for this you need to do like display the gender. So here nitaongeza label ingine. I just call this one label and say it's filling these things. I say this may be male. I'll copy the same and do for female. So this ile yenye you only select one. A checkbox can allow you select multiple, but radio allows you to select a single item. Female. That's the input type radio. So let's see how it looks like. So inaleta hapa female, imeleta hapa male na imeleta hapa female. You might say it's selecting both right now. It's because there's one more thing to add. So let me talk about the attribute that we left out, the attribute called name. So hapa hii attribute, if you have the same attribute for your two radio inputs, this way it will only allow you to select a single input, either male or a female. So this one usage of the attribute name, just a single usage, one of the many usages. So if I refresh the page now, if I click on male and I click on female, it's switching between male and female. It's because I'm using the same name here, like they are sending their value to the same input, to the same file, to the same property. That's name. Then the next one is input type color. So you want somebody to select color in your site, so you wanna use color here. I'm just going to leave the name here. We'll talk about it more later on. This was just a use case. So under color, if we come here and refresh the page, inakuletea option ya kuchoose colors. So mtu anaweza kuchoose color before submit your form. And I don't know, I believe I've left. Yeah, the next input we have here is the date input. So the date input allows you, for example, let me just switch this to date of birth. You will need to use input of type date to allow people to select their dates of birth. So you could come here, if I refresh the page, itatuambia, italeta aka kaform kako hapa chini. Let me do something here to make everything visible on the page. So about styling, we shall talk about it later on. So I'll do that, then I'll do here body and say padding, padding top, 100 pixels, and padding bottom 100 pixels. So hii itatusaidia kuongeza some space top and bottom hivyo. Haka ka space kamekuja hapa chini. So input type date, this is how it will look like. Itakuletea haka ka form ka mtu kuselect date. The next input we have is called label the time input. So for example, you have an event, you need to select the date and also the time the event is going to start. So you will need to use the time here. So if I reload the page here, italeta just time na unaona inakuletea both the time in normal from 0 to is it 0 yeah 12 to 12 and then you can select the minutes 1 to 60 and set if it's AM or PM. That's for the input type time. The next input we have here is, let's say you don't want to have the two fields separate, so date and time. So we are going to use an input here called input type of date time. And let me see if it's date time or date time local. So it's just, it has gone back to, yeah, I think it's date time local. Nope, it's not picking. Let me delete that. Yeah, so using input time date time local will allow you to choose to select both time, date and time at the same time. So your date here, then you can select the date, the time here. That's for the input type. Input type date time local. Another input I'd like to talk about is the input ile ya select. So for example, this one I don't know if I have select here. No. So let's just do the label here. We say select country. So if you want people to select their country or select their counties, we are going to use an input type called select. The difference between this select and the other input, it's called select instead of input. So you can select just as the name suggests. So I'll just go in. For you to select an item in a select input, you need to use things or attributes tags called options. So the first option here I can say maybe is Kenya. So you are giving options to select. That's just the implication. So country, I say Kenya, say TZ, I say Uganda, and I say Egypt. So let's see how they look like on the browser. I refresh the page. Now here is select country and it has brought select options. So I can be able to select down. I choose my country before I submit the form. And another input I'd like to talk about, definitely the last one, is called input type, called input type submit. So under input type submit, this allows you to submit the form. You could submit a form using a button like this one, or you submit a form using an input type submit. So the input type submit, all the work that it does is just to submit this form. So let's see how it looks like. So if I refresh the page, inaonekana tu kama button, but it's an input. So let me just comment out the button itself. To comment out in control slash ama control forward slash. Refresh the page. That's what we get. Input type submit. So if I hit the form, I hit submit in a submit your form. Yeah, submitting refreshes the page by default. Yeah, so that's about inputs. uh, Anybody with an additional input or with a question can raise it. Yes. Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah, good. Yes, I'm typing them through. So, yeah. Okay. So you need to know these input types. If I may recap, we have input types text. Yes, come up, come up. Yeah. So let's yeah. So let's do age. I'm going to do age as the last. Okay, not the last, but at least the additional thing here. I'm going to do a label and I say age. I close my label. Then you need to know the input type you are going to use. The type here you are going to use number. You don't want to use here text. Alafu ndo mtu akikuja kwa site, they just come here and they see oh age. They start writing no, no, you don't want this because hii haitakusaidia. You only need that number. So you need to use here type number. For the label, you can use any label like this just to guide the user who is entering or filling in your form. What is this input doing? Umeona? So that's the this input is only collecting age. For example, let's say we had another input of collecting maybe yeah, let's say another input collecting your first name. So I say your text and I leave it that way. If I come to the site and I refresh, I will be wondering what is this input doing here? Kazi yake ni gani unaona? So you have to show the user kazi ya hiyo input ni gani by using a label. And here I'm using my, okay, you say first name. So if the user comes to the site, I refresh at owner, oh, I need to enter first name into this input. So there are other attributes we like to add on. For example, if I come here, unaona hii text iko hapa chini ya enter your first name. Can you be able to see it? Yeah, and enter your last name, enter your email. How do people do or ni aje wanaweka hiyo ako ka text kako fainted huko nyuma. So ako ka text, this is where it comes in. So you have your enter first name here, ama you have your label first name. You need to tell the user to enter. Now ameanza kutype ya kumbuki nini ilikuwa hapo. Okay, whichever. So you just call something called, you use an attribute called placeholder. So a placeholder will provide more information. For example, hapa inaweza sema enter your first name. So hii ni kumwambia enter your first name. Hapa juu amesoma first name, a placeholder goes enter your first name. So if I refresh here, so imeleta ako ka kitu ka ama ako ka placeholder text ama hiyo fainted text, enter your first name. So this is like to help the user like maybe kama hakusoma hapa juu kwa input lazima ataisoma before aanze kutype. So ataona enter your first name. Let's say you add something like a phone number. So I'll just redo the phone number here, a label, uh, phone number, and you have used an input. Ukasema hapa type maybe in text. Let's say that whatsoever you used to take your phone numbers. So you'll need to tell your user here, using a placeholder, umwambie enter your phone number. So it's a text, but using the placeholder, you could be able to tell the user what to do with that input. Umeona? So email unamwambia enter your email, phone number unamwambia enter your phone number. So hapa hivi, if we go back to type number and I refresh the page, still it will appear the same. So it will help the user just learn about nini nafaa kuwekwa hapa. So you could do all that for any input except inputs like color and these checkboxes which do not like take placeholders. Even if you were to add placeholders, they don't affect anything. So that's where you use placeholders in your HTML. Placeholders are used within the form and within inputs, and usually in inputs such as email, text, number. Yeah, those are the most common where you use placeholders because they have to like be in a text input before they appear. So that's from the inputs. I don't know if somebody ameona nimeacha some inputs, anaweza sema so that we can view them here too, how they look like, because I believe there are very many inputs. Anybody with something to add on inputs or to subtract, kindly ileta hapa sahi, tusitoke meeting uende kuisema mahali kwingine. So let me just try to find out where those inputs are. I'll just click here at the form and share the link. Yeah, so these are the form can contain one or more of the following form elements. So these are the common form elements. Right, I left this one out, a text area. So let's look at a text area and see how it works, how it looks like, how it works, and what can it be its use case. So going down here, I'll do a label and say bio, and what I can say here is a text area. So text area, usually with HTML you have to do this, like it has to have its own closing tag, and like the normal hizi inputs zenye unaweza amua kufunga ama uache kufunga. So for a text area you need to have like its own closing tag at the end, hii hapa mwisho, otherwise it will fail to work. So let's see how a text area looks like. If I refresh here, you see text area yetu ndio hapa. So yeah, that's where our text area is. A text area is also different from other fields because you can extend it or reduce its size. So yeah, let me add a few attributes to this text area. So a text area has a few more properties. For example, the number of rows you want it to show wakati inafunguka that first time. Let's say we want only 10 rows. So let me just, a row goes downwards, I believe. Yeah, a row goes down while the columns goes horizontal. So if I refresh the page, you see our text area is now larger. Without the rows attribute, this is how our text area will look like. Just a small text area. But you want to see if a user is entering their bio, you give them a number of rows so that wasiona wako na less space. So you can say up to maybe 40 rows. Then you can add a placeholder and tell us more about yourself. So placeholders is a text content. You could write anything here, but make sure it tries to explain what this input does or why is this input here. So if I refresh the page, so tunaona hapa ziko 40 lines, so for the user to enter their bio. Anyway, usually you need to have about 6 rows, not much. Yeah, for your text area. When this one has been styled, it will look more better than when it's looking like this. and we shall talk more why these fields are like hii inafuata hii, hii inafuata hii, hii inafuata hii hivyo, na hizi zingine ziko hii iko kando, iko kando, iko kando. So we shall learn more about that one as we go on by styling our form and learning more of these form elements. Kuna mtu ako na kitu ya kuongezea? I might have left things out while I was talking about a form and its inputs. So tuko class ama niko peke yangu hapa? I don't know. So okay, I believe we are. So I'll just share this link. Yeah, remember to follow through to learn more about the tags that can be used in a form. And one more thing, and the last thing we were to cover just with the introduction of HTML and CSS is the common tags. So let's go down here and learn about the common tags. So common tags. So under the common tags, we have a div. So a div is like a container. It's like saying, let's group these things into a div. So that's a div. Let me do div. So under a div, you can do, let me close this before nisahau. So a div helps you group things together. For example, hizi inputs zenye tumekuwa tukiweka hapa juu, I like to wrap them in divs so that we can be able to identify the difference. So I'm going to just, by wrapping, I mean like doing this. I do a div here. I cut the last, the closing tag, I paste it here. I do a div here, cut the last item, okay, the last closing tag, div, take the closing tag, paste mwisho. So I'm grouping these things together. Like the div has grouped this, the label and the input. And always remember to have your code like equal in the right styling. I'm calling this styling, though it's not styling, it's indentation. So just make sure kama ni form, then the child should be inner, the child should be inner. Always make sure to have that, ndio code yako ionekane safi, hata when you are going through you will be able to see, oh, this is opening here and it's closing here. For example, this opening here and the closing here. The form is opening at this point, going down, it's closing here. So remember to have your code well indented. Then the next one is this div here. I need to push that one forward. To push it forward, use just select the code you want to push forward and hit tab. So selecting, you can select like this. You don't have to select everything, just some content about it and hit tab. Itaisongesha mbele. Usitumie space kusongesha mbele like this one. Ukuje umeselect vizuri alafu anza kuspace. Itakataa ama itadelete code yako. If your code has been deleted that way all of a sudden hujui mbona imekaa deleted, Control Z, the common word shortcuts. Control Z itaredo. Control Y, Control Z itaredo. Control Y will also like go forward. If you deleted some things, Control Y will help you go forward. I'll illustrate it later on. Div. So div helps in grouping things together. So let's see what we have so far. So I have grouped each label with its input. If I refresh the page, so by grouping imesaidia kila moja iko on its own line. Each one is appearing on its own line. Just a moment, I confirm something here. So this is 1 minute. Just a moment.